Welcome to Flow Living TV, and today I have a very special guest. It's our very first episode, and I'm in Korea in a traditional Korean restaurant. You can see by the background, and I have with me today Dr. Jin Kyu Robertson. It's my special honor to have here. She is the author of Major Dream, and she is a very famous Korean motivational speaker, and she talks about pursuing your dreams and having something to dream about. She has a very, very interesting story, and I'm going to have her tell the story because I think she can do a much better job. It's great to have you here.
Hi, thank you.
So, Jin, we were just talking earlier, and I just wanted to introduce you to our American audience and have you tell the story of what your dream was, and then you talked about so many challenges. People have so many challenges that they go through. How did you overcome some of those challenges?
Well, it is very hard to describe in one word.
Yeah.
And my dream actually came about from the instinct to survive.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like I was dropped into some trap, and then I had to survive. And I could have taken the road of killing myself, but I was a coward to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So to survive, and then there's several choices, and I chose to have a dream to encourage me to become somebody in the future. So that's having the dream for the future kind of gave me strength to overcome the obstacles I was facing. And it's to describe that the whole story. I was a daughter of a tavern owner, and my mom was discriminating against the girls, and I had to help my mom to do the house chores from 5 o'clock early in the morning to until almost midnight, and I discovered that I hated doing house chores. And but I couldn't say no to my mom because my mom is she would beat the heck out of me in a heartbeat if I say no. So because I was scared of her, and I did all the house chores, and so the only hope I could give me, or encouragement to give me to bear with that, was that in the future it will be different. I will become somebody someday, and I don't have to put up with all these kind of something I don't really like to do. So that's how I ended up getting a dream. But in that case, in those days, I was doing really bad in the school, and I was #1 from my class from the bottom, and and so I asked my teacher what would be considered the major success, and he said that becoming a PhD, and so I decided to become a PhD, and I didn't even know what PhD was, and he said that I have to study well to become a PhD. So from that time, I was studying well so that I can become a PhD, so that I don't have to do the house chores. And then amazing thing happened. I discovered the secret of studying well, and when I was graduating from elementary school, I became #1 out of a whole girls and #2 of a whole school. So
what was that secret?
The secret is, when you have a dream, it's like there's a word saying, when you know what, how will show up. So when you have that dream, and as I was dreaming at first, and it looked like an impossible dream, right? But it's impossible because I don't know everything. I don't know what was available out there, and I don't know what I have. That's why it looked like impossible. But once you have that dream, that subconscious start acting up, and that will start showing you the things you need to reach that dreams. And at the same time, if you don't really have the simple answer, then subconscious will trigger up your creativity and innovative mind, and and imagination. And see, everybody has those, but unless you activate it, that dream is like an activator. Then once it's activated, and almost anything and everything can become the resources to help you to reach that dream. So even for studying, I had to study well to become the PhD. So that with having that dream, and it's a funny thing was before when I studied, even I read the same thing about 10 times, I don't remember anything what I read because my mind was somewhere else. But now, to become that PhD, I had to study well, and I was kind of desperate not to become that housewife or housemaid or something doing the house chores, right? So at the same time, because I was helping my mom and I don't have much time, right? So I don't have time to wander off and then come back to my studying. I don't have that luxury. Then the subconscious was bringing that focus into that point, like a sun ray, and if you have that the mirror thing, that then it ray focus, and then it start ignite fire, right? So that's almost like that, and in your brain, that things you read even once is just stick to your brain. You don't forget, you don't wander off. So when you take the exam, the answers, you can remember all those answers right away, So that's how helped me to improve my exam results, and then I became the #1 among all the girls. And then interesting thing is that because I was doing so well in school, suddenly my mom changed her mind that she was gonna have me graduate from elementary school and do the house chores and then get married off. That was my sister who took that route, and so that was my fate when I was at the beginning. But because I was doing so well in school, my mom decided to send me to junior high school, and so I was on my way to become the PhD, I guess. So, and that having that dream is like a miracle, having a miracle, because that activate all the resources and capabilities you have within your body, that just activated and start working, and then it's like more synergies coming out, and more impossible things will start showing up and making things happen, and then you're well on its way.
So Jin, what you didn't mention is that you actually grew up in extreme poverty in the countryside, and you really had to overcome a lot more than the average person. And from reading your book, it was so inspiring because you gave me the sense that, wow, if she could do it, then I can do it too. And I think that's what's so amazing about your story. And now you are a famous speaker. You speak to different audiences in Korea and China and the US.
Not China, Malaysia.
Oh, Malaysia. Oh, Malaysia. And Bangkok, okay. And Abu Dhabi, wow.
Japan.
And Japan, wow. So you've really exploded into all these international markets. How did you start your speaking career, and how did you get this book published, and how did you even discover that this is what you wanted to do with your life after you got your PhD?
Because of that, discrimination kind of triggered the anger and rebellious attitude in my mind, and I was determined to become somebody and show the world that girls from the poverty doesn't mean they are worthless and useless. So whole my life, my dream was becoming somebody to prove the world that it is possible even you are from the bottom of the poor country. So that was my dream of my life. So I was just pursuing that dream. Then one day that Korea in 1998 time frame, and going through the disaster of economic disaster, and then a lot of family were breaking up, and the people were committing suicide, and country was ready to go through the economic bankruptcy almost. And that's when one of the Korean producer director of Korean TV, wanted to look for some story that can inspire, Koreans. So that's how he found me, my story, and then he made a documentary of my life story, and that aired, and then it exploded. And then publishers were swarming over to publish my book, and it's almost a 1 to 100, competition going on, and so my book came out, and it became instant bestseller of in Korea, and saving a lot of people's lives. And then I was invited to give speeches, and I never thought I could become a speaker, and because I was thinking about it, just my heart was running fast, and I was scared, and so I never thought about standing in front of other people and giving the speeches. And then at first I was really shaky, and and I had no confidence in that. But still, once and twice, and the 3 times, and I was going to speak. And then when I went there, and the people just loved me, right? Because my story was aired, and books were published, and they just loved me. No matter, even I make a lot of mistakes, and they just loved me. And then I realized that the story I'm talking about is my story. There's no one in the whole world know better than me about my own story. So that gave me amazing confidence. And then I ended up giving over about 1,500 speeches so far. So by keep on doing that, and you become really confident, and you are really good at it. At the same time, I discovered that I enjoyed being on the stage, talking to audience. That is the best thing in the whole world, the most fun and the most amazing, moments. So that's why that became my rest of my life career, and every time when you give speeches, you are touching more than one person, their heart, and they're changing their lives, and it's just almost you're changing the world, and that's that's how I ended up, became the bestseller author and speaker.
It's so amazing that it's a career path that you didn't even envision for yourself. And what's amazing is you were telling me the story about how did this documentary come about? Can you share that story a little bit with the audience?
Well, I mean, as I was growing up to show the world, that I always thought about maybe publishing a book someday. But then I was, after I retired from the U.S. Army, and I went back to Harvard to finish up my PhD. And at that time, my daughter, who applied for Harvard, but she didn't make it at first, and she went to Georgetown for 2 years. So after I went back to Harvard, and my daughter got encouragement to transfer to Harvard, and so from her junior year, she came to Harvard. And so we ended up, that was in 1997, September, from then on, and we were at the same Harvard campus under the same guidance of from same professor, and we were studying, covering the same region. Mine was East Asian history and East Asian languages. So we were covering more of China, Japan, and Korea. And then she was majoring government and East Asian studies. She was dual majoring. So we were studying sometimes in the same classroom from the same professors. And so that was kind of odd, for mom and daughter at the same time. And we were even told that was the probably first time in Harvard history. And then there was a Professor Eckert, who was the director of Korean studies, and he found that very amusing and intriguing. So Korean that institute had what do you call that, is a newsletter, quarterly newsletter, and he decided to have our story as a cover story of that newsletter. And because this is a Harvard Korean Institute, and that they share those kind of newsletter to throughout the world, more or less. and even Ewha University Korea had that too. And then from after junior year, Jasmine decided to that's my daughter's name. She decided to have an exchange student attend that, and she came to Ewha University. And the Ewha University already had that newsletter, and they knew about her. And one of the Korean major newspaper reporter came to Ewha University looking for some top stories, right? And then they said, we have a very interesting student this year. So they introduced my daughter to them, and the reporter decided, start asking questions, and then he found out her mom's story is more amazing. Going to America as a housemaid and didn't even speak the language and had only $100 and about 70 or 80% probability that I would be sold on the street as a prostitution, So that was the beginning of me in America. Then ended up retiring from the U.S. Army as a major, and then working on PhD from Harvard. So they thought that's just an amazing story. So when newspaper, published that story, my daughter was ROTC, going through the ROTC. So she was in ROTC uniform and standing tall and covering almost half of the page. But the story, most of that was about my story. And so then Women's Magazine thought that was interesting, and they were interviewing me. I was at Harvard at the time, so they were interviewing me here and there, and then so my story was trickling to the side. And then suddenly that Korean, when Korea was going through the disaster, that Korean TV wanted to find a inspiring story to help Koreans, and so they found me, and then suddenly my life was changing.
And that's how it started. Yeah, that's really amazing story, because if you see some of the testimonials in Jin's book, people write to you, and it's not the ordinary testimonials that I typically find. People have claimed that you've saved their lives, quite literally, from suicide. They were about to take their own life. And it's really moving because in your book you share about your own struggles and your journey, moving from the countryside as a poor girl and wanting to study in Seoul. That was an amazing journey. And then you go from Seoul and then you go to America. So can you share a little bit, like how did that happen? How do you go from the countryside to Seoul? And then how do you go from Seoul all the way to America? You started from like nothing, and then you got yourself all the way to America, which was one of your dreams.
I didn't anticipate that when I was, starting at the sixth grader. But my life, in a way, can characterize as I was desperately trying to survive of the given, hellish situations. And then many times my turning point came about because I was desperately trying to escape from that difficult life. And even going to Seoul after junior high school, because being down there and working under my mom, going to school at the same time, and I had to work from 5 o'clock in the morning until almost midnight, and my mom was so unforgiving and so demanding, and I was kind of, in a way, living in fear of my mom for almost 24 hours, and physically suffering and mentally suffering too. So to end that kind of a misery, I had to escape, and legally to escape, I had to apply for high school in Seoul, and it took a lot of persuading, and I had to get help from my uncle and aunt who were in Seoul, but still persuaded my parents to let me go to Seoul. So that was more or less of escaping from the misery of Jecheon, the countryside, to go to Seoul. But the fear fear of my mom kind of ended at least, because I wasn't with my mom and I wouldn't be beaten up, just like any moment type of stuff. But still, even in Seoul after high school, then I ended up working as a factory girl, and then from there I became a waitress in a restaurant, and from there I ended up working as a housemaid. And so those kind of I had that dream to become PhD, but working as a housemaid and factory girl, and I'm not gonna get my dream. And so I was depressed, and I was kind of desperate to find a way out of this kind of a misery again. That's when I found a newspaper ad looking for a housemaid for the family in America to work in America. And the Korea just finished the Korean War in 1953, and so Americans fought in here, and we all thought Americans were all rich. America was a paradise. They would throw out the gums, and they would throw out the chocolate and give out the cans of the meat and all that stuff. So we always had that exotic dream about America anyway. And then I figured that would be the escape again from my that current misery to the paradise, perhaps. So that's why I applied for going to America. But biggest fear was that it was understanding that we would be sold on the street. So I had to take a chance of become a prostitute, or maybe I might become a housemaid. So that was the choice I was looking at as I was heading to America. And the universe rewards action, I guess, and that universe decided that this girl is so courageous and willing to give up her life, more or less. So I wasn't sold out. So that was the biggest luck. And then I ended up losing my job too. When I got there, job was gone to the girl from South America. And if in other circumstances, I would have been so devastated and I would be so frightened, right? But as I was landing to America, I was under the amazing fear of that being sold as a prostitute. So because I didn't become the prostitute, and then it was a housemaid's case, even I lost the job, I wasn't really scared, But that was a kind of a blessing in disguise, actually. And later, I ended up getting a job in a Korean restaurant as that was called Arirang, and the top restaurant in New York. And because I had an experience as working as a waitress in Korea too. I mean, carrying your gomtang, jjigae, Korean food from the to the customers is the same in America or Korea. So they recognize my experience. And in Korea, I was making about $10 a month, right? And in America, working in Arirang, I was start making $1,000 a month in 1971. Wow. So that's life was turning around, and next year I signed up for college, and all those things were happening.
So when you arrived in America, what was your dream outside from, I know you were trying to escape, but did you have something that you were trying to achieve at that time, or did you even know what to dream for?
Well, back of my mind, I still have that dream of becoming the PhD, because my teacher said the world will recognize if you become a PhD. And that's like I become a justice fighter, showing the world that, see, you can do it too, and then don't you dare look down upon me, or those kind of attitude. But as I was landing in America, I had no idea what would wait for me and how I could become that PhD, and I had no idea. Just praying so hard that please don't sell me on the street.
So tell us, how did you go from losing your job as, you were working as a waitress now, how did you go from a waitress to a PhD graduate at Harvard?
that's you're talking about the lifelong story, because I got my PhD when I was 57 years old. But PhD was just back on the back of my mind, and I had no idea, how. But I still wanted to become a student. So as I was making a lot of money at waitressing, next year I applied for college, and I to start attending college full time, and then working at the restaurant in the evenings. So that was my life, and I was only 22 years old, and I was still struggling with English, because when I landed in America, maybe my English was, I was barely able to find a restroom, that was the level. So I was struggling with that, but still young and not a bad looking, and and a college student, and I was very popular to a lot of guys, So and that because I was making a lot of money and going to college, and my dream of becoming PhD seems so possible, Then I fell in love, and then there was a Korean guy who just came from Korea. He was 5'11", 170 pounds, and Aikido black belt 7th degree, and looking like a Bruce Lee, and I fell in love, and just everybody around me were against our marriage. They thought I was losing too much, because I was even proposed by a diplomat and some son of wealthy family from Korea. They wanted to get married, with me, but I turned them all down and married this guy. And he was poor and almost penniless, and he didn't speak any English and no other skills, and he has already a daughter of out of a wed, and so condition was really bad. But I thought love can, we can do anything if you love someone, So I got married and had a daughter, but ended up he was like many Korean men, abusive, and he believed in beating up their wives minimum 3 or 4 times a year, otherwise they will kind of look down upon, or they will not forget their place of a subordinate, places. So I was beaten up by him, regularly, So then I was getting really angry, and I wanted to take a revenge. And then once I started thinking about taking revenge, and thought of how to kill him was coming to me, So I was plotting more or less of murdering him. Wow. Then when I saw that little innocent baby, I said, wow, he's not worth it, He's not worth to destroy my life and my daughter's life and the life of my family and the life of all those people I was going to save in the future, So I decided that, so I was desperate to find a way out of that situation. And so that's when I found about the military training. And then once I in the military training, and I knew I would be forced to separate from him for minimum 6 months, then I will be settled down, and I will be able to go through a divorce at least, So so not to become a murderer, I became a licensed warrior, right? But I didn't realize, I joined in as a private, right? But I didn't realize that would become my elevator to my success. So because I have that sense of mission to helping so many other innocent people, that kind of encouraged me to become a real good soldier. I was private at first, and then after 4.5 years, then I got the confidence, and then I applied for officers corps, and then I became an officer, and then I was doing really great in officers corps. And then there's ran into a program in the U.S. Army called the Foreign Area Officer. It's like a soldier statesman, and once you get accepted to that, they teach you the language of that country, and send you to graduate school and then send you to the country and advanced language and then, becoming an expert of that country. That sounded so great, and then they give you the pay all the salary too. So I said, wow, that sounds great. So I applied for that, and then I didn't make it. I failed, right? But then I realized, wait a minute, I need to find out why I didn't make it. So why I was in Korea and I went to Washington D.C. and met the guy who would make the decision and found out because I was a woman. That's why I didn't make it. And I said, why? This is a U.S. Army, And they said, no, well, we believe in equal opportunities, but the people you have to deal with happen to be very conservative Korean men and Japanese men, and they look down upon women. So if we send you as our representative, they will treat you bad, and then we will lose on the deals or, the negotiation. And I said, wait a minute. If Margaret Thatcher, Prime Minister of England, if she goes to Korea or Japan, do you think a Korean president and Japanese Prime Minister, they will treat her bad because she's a woman? Yeah. No, they treat her like a VIP, not because she's amazing, because they see the power of that England supporting her. So I know America is a better country than England, so why is America scared when England is willing to take that chance? So it took me one day, all day long, I stuck there and I persuaded them, and they changed their mind and decided to take me as a test case. So because I was a test case, if I fail, then outstanding female officers, they will not be, the door will be closed on them. So with a sense of mission again, that I pursued that dream, and I maxed out on the all Japanese language test. That was the first time in school history, and then I applied to Harvard. I was already over 40, but I needed that Harvard degree to, stand equal with that Korean man and Japanese man. But so with that sense, I applied to Harvard, and I was amazed. I got accepted to Harvard for master's degree. That's how Harvard started, came to my life. Wow. And then because I knew that secret of starting well when I was sixth grader, right, that applies to Harvard too. So I was competing against that students, geniuses about 20 years younger than me, competing against with them, but I graduated with A- average. And so I said, wow, I might as well apply for PhD too, since I'm at Harvard, and some professors already trust me and, support me. So I applied for that, and first year I didn't make it, but I'm used to being turned down, then we climb back up. So I applied again next year, and then our class was History and East Asian Languages department, and there were 32 students, from the world applied to that course, and they accepted only 2 students, and one of them were me. Wow. I got accepted, Wow. So, but I was active military, so I submitted this leave of absence, and then I went to Japan, and then when I went to Japan and I made my business card. First line was that Harvard PhD candidate, and I was already major, and Japanese men, including generals, and they looked at the business card, and they were just amazed, and they said, wow, I've never met this kind of amazing person in the whole life, and as the same Asian, we are just so proud of you. And they were backing me up like, they're like their relatives almost. Wow. And I did my best, and then I became I did the best job of all the men previous, male fail, right? So then Army changed the policy this time. Wow. And they decided to select the outstanding female officers and start sending them to Japan while I was already in Japan. And to them, I was a legend. And they all came and, met me, and guys from the Korean, that language school, mostly got guys, but to them I was a legend too, because not only Japanese, I took a Korean test too, and I maxed out all the, both of them. So there was a school was there for 48 years, and there was a school history in 48 years. So that really showed that, a lot of leaders have some narrow-minded and stereotyping. I mean, they just accept it as a face value that Japanese men and Korean men will look down upon women. That's why they've been denying that opportunity to those outstanding women officers so far. But so they had so much to lose by losing their assets, right? It's like companies or government, it's just all same. But their responsibility, not only to the leaders, but the people underneath, if they think they hit that glass ceilings, that's their responsibility to find a way to break or melt these glass ceilings and rise up and change those, wrong attitude and wrong perception of those leaders. That's the responsibility for everybody, whoever have some care about themselves. So anyway, so I took that route and broke that glass ceilings. And when I applied that, it was 1989. And then 2009, there came one person who maxed out on both Korean and Japanese and decided to take that, walked into that fail road. And that happened to be my daughter. So 20 years later, someone, came up and challenged me. And so now she's a fellow. She's a fellow, and she is a major and working in Cambodia. Wow. So not only I changed my life, and that method led me to go to Harvard, and because that my daughter's dream was becoming a clone of her mom. So because her mom went to Harvard, she started having the dream to go to Harvard, and she ended up graduating from Harvard anyway. And so helping myself, that fellow, one program that changed not only my life and my daughter's life, and because of that story became a major hit, and it start inspiring and motivating not only people in Korea and Japan and other part of the world. So we are helping so many people in the world. There's a word saying, event plus response equals the outcome, right? And in life, we have so many things happening, and every situation you have a choice of what kind of route to respond with. And the choice you make, that will change your life and your family's life, and then change the world almost.
So you were saying that, your story is just amazing, like what you've been able to accomplish. And what strikes me is your persistence and being able to get back up even though you're rejected. Besides that, is there anything that you think that you would advise people as something that they need to have to become successful? Like, what do you see as the key ingredients to somebody even starting from nothing? How do they get to such a big goal and achieve and accomplish something so great?
The very beginning, when I was sixth grader, and that's when I started doing the house chores, because my sister got married off in that year, and I had to do not only cooking, cleaning, and I had to do the laundry, and we didn't have any. We had the water faucet at home, but it was very expensive, so we had to take that laundry to the stream in the winter. It's frozen, and I had to break the ice, and without no rubber gloves or anything, bare hands, I had to wash clothes there, and it's freezing cold in cold water, and that's sixth grader, shivering, shivering and suffering really, and then suddenly it occurred to me, what has she done so bad to live like that, and no escape, because I was kind of a coward to run away, or coward to kill myself, and a coward to deny it and tell my mom, no, I don't want to do that. Then she will beat the heck out of me, So I was kind of trapped in there. So objectively looking at that poor girl trapped in that real downtrodden, real misery, but she has no way out because she can't kill herself and she has to live, survive. So when I looked at that, I felt so sorry for her. And I mean, she never asked to be born as a girl. She never asked to be born in Korea at the poor family's daughter, So I decided to help her. And I said, I am going to help you regardless. If the whole world deserts you, I am going to help you because it's not your fault to be born as a girl in the poor family. And I will do everything and possible. I will help you. And then I, looking back, I realized the biggest, powerful, most powerful ally you can find is you, yourself. And other people can leave you. Yeah. Parents or brothers and sisters or whoever, they can leave you, but you cannot leave yourself. So you will be with you 24 hours, and you know almost anything and everything about yourself, what you're thinking and what's your fear and what's your dreams, goals. So you can make the strategy to fit just you, perfectly. So that's the main beginning of the power I maintained, because I never left me yet, So throughout the, every time I run into difficult times or miserable times, I was there helping me to find a way out. So that's why I love to share that story to other people. Is there is no one in the world who doesn't have themselves. Yeah. So they have the power within them. Just to bring that out, start, let it work and help you. And then, as I said before, dream will wake up your subconscious, capabilities and your creativity and innovative minds, and all those will be waking up, when you have a dream. And then with your own self helping, determined to help you to become somebody, that will put you into action, and then things will start evolve into.
So that's very amazing. It's you talk to yourself so you're relying on yourself to coach yourself. Yep. And so what kind of things do you tell yourself when you're feeling beaten down, when you just want to give up, when you just want to, we face these challenges and you're like, oh, this is just too much, I just want to give up here. When you have that fork in the road, what do you say to really get yourself past that moment?
I use the both carrot and stick method, and I mean, I found that with creativity, if you have that creativity, then same thing could generate either destructive power or very helpful power, like nuclear. Is if you use it as a bomb, it will destroy the cities or people and world. But if you use that for the energy, and that really help you to live a very convenient life. So anger inside, that is like a nuclear energy, nuclear power, power. So I used my anger to energize me. So whenever I feel weak and coward and scared, then I stir up my anger, within me. And then it's like while you're studying, to become a PhD, then I feel sleepy too, right? And I feel like giving up. And then I start pointing out and start using my imagination, showing that I just create the scenes like people who treated me bad before and looked down upon me because of my, I was a daughter of a tavern owner, or at school because I was really at the bottom of the class in the beginning, So I start thinking about those snobby and people, the bad people, right, including my mom, and then I create a scene that I'm on the ground, on the dirt. Me and my father. And my father, I always had some heart for him because he's so thin and so nice guy, but not much of capable of making money. So my mom was the boss at home, and then she nags and nags and nags. So I was always siding my dad, right? So I just draw a picture that me and my father were on the ground, all torn up and beaten up, and just the people who look down upon us and thinking, what, you cannot become somebody, you cannot become PhD, and you're like slaves. And so I just create those words, and then I show myself in blood and beating up. And then when I start thinking about that, and my childhood, one of the dream was becoming a justice fighter, and watching that and helpless, me and my dad were being beaten up, and I get so angry, and you cannot go to sleep when you are angry, So even you are sleepy, but when I saw that scene, and I get angry, and I wake up, I'm not sleepy anymore,
Wow.
So I use that kind of tactics. So whenever I feel like giving up, and I show those kind of scenes, and they will say, "See, I told you, I knew you will be just staying at the bottom, you're nothing, So I think about those kind of things, and then you get angry and say, "No, I will not give you that kind of a satisfaction, and I'm gonna show you, So I wake up and get up and not give up, right? At the same time, I tell myself, you are born with a mission. You're gonna become someone so amazing. God picked you, selected you specially to give you the talent and path, and now you're going to become someone amazing, and you're going to help all those people who are just, who are suffering just because they were born into that kind of a poverty and low level. So they are all waiting for you, You're going to have an amazing life. So it's a carrot. And stick with that, anger generation. So those work miracles,
I've never heard of that that technique of using your anger to push you forward, but that perspective, it's really actually the people that you think that are doing harm to you actually are helping you in a certain way. It's really amazing. Well, I'd like to just share this. This is the book that Jin wrote, Major Dream. She also has this published in Korean, and this is the cover for that. You can purchase it on Amazon.
Yeah.
.com. And before we go, do you have any last message that you'd like to share with the audience? Any messages of hope and advice that you think that may be helpful?
I usually end with my philosophy I learned from my life is first, we have no choice from our birth. And second, we have no choice from dying. We're all gonna die. And because you were born first, that doesn't mean you will die first, and sequence is undetermined. And third, we have only one life to live. And fourth, even for that one life, we have a choice how to live that life given to us. And since we are born, whether we want it or not, and since we're gonna die anyway, so when the death came to claim you, whether you are cowering and please help me, or saying, oh well, I guess it's a time, but I'm just lucky that I had that one opportunity to find out my limits in this world, and I had best life, and so let's go. Either way, you're gonna leave when the death came to claim you. So since you have to live anyway, it's only one chance to die, so you might as well go with dignity and pride, and but until you die, you are still living. And that's also just one chance given to us to find out, your limits, or test out what you are good at, what you want to do. And so it's just a gift given to us, So might as well make it the best ever you can make before you leave.
Thank you so much, Jin, and thank you for watching. This is Christine and Dr. Jin Kyu Robertson.